semi-automatic rifle, they're never going to come and take it. That's a lie. I mean, I know that's a lie because they've done it to me already. And they've done it to him. I've watched them do it to fellow brother law enforcement officers.
The Gun Control Act of 1968 declared the BATF should fight against crime and violence. But in their fight, the BATF should not place undue burdens on law-abiding citizens. Congress was very specific. Private ownership of guns should not be discouraged in any way. So the BATF's original goal was, first, fight crime and violence, and second, collect revenue from legal alcohol and tobacco. From the beginning, the BATF kept law and order. But in the last 20 years, BATF lost sight of their goal. There's a new victim in America, a victim suffering unrightable wrong. The victim is the law-abiding American citizen, and dozens of them have had their private lives destroyed by forces they say are out of control. The victims warn the problem is not going away, and surprisingly, it's our own government perpetrating the crime. So when did the BATF lose sight of their goal, and why did they start targeting innocent American citizens? Because there are a lot of people today that are charging the BATF with incompetence. They are also charging them with cowardice for not seeking out the professional criminal, but taking the easy way out and making the easiest arrests. And it's those innocent people that might not be able to fight back. But the BATF's easy target quota system of crime fighting could be backfiring. Dozens of cases are being thrown out of court or being dismissed for lack of evidence or faulty evidence. Other alleged cases are merely forgotten as if they never existed, but not before ruining the lives of those under the gun.
I mean, we're not criminals. We didn't do anything wrong. We didn't steal the guns. We went and got permits through the police department, through Camden.
Bob Kirkbride and his partner Jim Phillips are veteran New Jersey cops. Together, they have survived a combined total of more than 38 years in life-threatening tactical work. Both are instructors qualified on arsenal weapons, including machine guns. Phillips is an expert in clandestine weaponry. On their beat in one of Camden, New Jersey's more dangerous ghettos, they have been the target of desperados of all kinds. But recently, they became targets of yet another kind. It was a desperate federal investigation. The agency responsible, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. After checking with their own police department for the appropriate permits, the tactical partners bought 2 semi-automatic Avenger firearms as collector's items. That is, until the BATF decided to collect the guns instead.
He said he was Agent Markovich from the BATF agency, and he wanted to speak to me about the weapon I had purchased.
He said, well, we need to evaluate it, and after we declare it's a machine gun, don't worry, you're not going to get arrested. I said, wait a minute, it's not a machine gun. What do you mean, how are you going to declare it is a machine gun when it doesn't fire automatically? Then he got mad. He said, whoa, I said, let's stop right here. He said, let's stop. And he reaches in his pocket and pulls out the Miranda warnings, and he proceeds to Mirandize us. He says, now, I want to ask you about these guns. I said, no, you're not asking me nothing. I'm not saying nothing. I want an attorney. He said, well, you don't have to take that kind of an attitude. He said, the only reason I gave you your Miranda warnings was because my bosses told me that's what we're supposed to do. I said, hey, wait a minute. We're both cops. We're not rookies. When we give somebody their Miranda rights, pal, you're in hot water. You're in trouble. I said, that's no joke to me.
The reason we had bought them was that we weren't going to fire them. They were consecutive serial numbers, low serial numbers. And anybody in their right mind doesn't buy a .45 caliber weapon to go out and blow around. It's just too expensive. So we thought it was a good idea to hold on to them.
The federal agent left with the 2 Avengers and began a massive investigation of the 2 officers. The BATF probed into their personal lives, their finances, their lifestyles, trying to dig up any dirt on the partners he could, while all the time continuing to work with them side by side on other undercover Camden, New Jersey cases.
I mean, I got pretty hot under the collar at his attitude at one point, and I said, well, I'm going to talk to an attorney. He said, well, wait a minute. I want to know who your attorneys are.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not telling you who my attorney is. He said, you're going to tell me who the attorney is, because if not, you could be construed as hindering a federal prosecution and be charged for it. Because we want to make sure you're not going to see attorneys that spade you, from Jersey Arms Works or Longo from the Weapons Emporium are using them, so you have to get our permission. I said, what do you mean I have to get your permission to use an attorney of my choosing?
He said you make up a list and he'll okay it.
Yeah, make up a list. He said, make up a list and my bosses will okay it. I said, where's this at? The Gulag Archipelago or something? You know, this is America, not Russia. This guy thought he was in the, you know, the Gestapo from Washington, D.C. or something. I mean, that really upset me.
We'd heard that the BATF was bad guys, untrained bunch of political hacks, so we figured that, the bad guys are saying that. It's like you lock up a guy and he comes in and says you beat him up. It's a way out. They look for a way out. Now, we figured the BATF was doing their job and these people were just sour grapes. But now that you see it, now that it happens to you, you be a little more sensitive and you can see that these guys, the way they work, they don't work right, they don't work properly.
It turned out to be an expensive witch hunt for the government and a painful experience for two good cops and their families. Not one indictment or charge was ever brought by the BATF. And after all the trauma they imposed, the BATF dropped the investigation like a hot shell casing.
My envisions of ATF is, you know, you're going after guys with hand grenades and terrorists and machine guns and, you know, bad guys. Bad guys. That's my interpretation. Now, I know better. They hit some gun shows, but I really know better now. I know now if you tell me, well, you shouldn't be upset if you own a semi-automatic rifle, they're never going to come and take it. That's a lie.
If we wanted one, we'd just confiscate one. Just take one. I mean, what's a drug dealer going to go in there and tell the chief of police they took my machine gun, now I want them locked up? He's going to be happy we just took that. So why would I go out and purchase something, pay money for it, and it be illegal? It just doesn't make any sense. But even at that, the part that upset me is these guys snuck in there as an agency. Let's be brothers, let's talk, you help us, we might be able to help you. And the first opportunity they got, they shafted us.
When did the BATF decide to target non-criminals? By the BATF's own admission, their primary goal is to find the bad guys, not the average citizen. The intent is to keep guns out of the hands of felons, drug dealers, and common criminals.
First and foremost is a felon possessing a firearm, and we also have a recently enacted law called the Armed Career Criminal Act, which provides for a 15-year mandatory prison term for a person who has 3 felony convictions for violent felonies or serious drug offenses and is found in possession of a firearm.
Each year, thousands of private citizens attend gun shows, either to buy or sell weapons. These are private citizens that don't need a license to trade, buy, and sell. It's the beauty of a gun show, a place where collectors who are building a collection can work at their hobby. Gun shows were originally designed just for the hobbyist, but in 1984, the BATF relaxed the rules for gun shows and allowed dealers with FFL licenses to also attend. As long as the dealers keep the appropriate paperwork and abide by all the rules of their license, they too can buy, sell, and trade at gun shows. This is Jim Bossy. Bossy is a prosperous Northern California businessman. He made most of his money in real estate and bought a failing gun dealership from a friend a few years ago. Bossy is a licensed dealer and sells most of his guns to police, including machine guns. Looking for an easy target, Bossy alleges the BATF sneaked onto his property without a warrant, diagrammed his house, his gun shop, and gun locker, and then tried to get him in their sights.
They came up here and seized 300 weapons. And out of all those weapons, the one that they were really concerned about was the shotgun that was too short. It wasn't being used in a crime. It wasn't loaded with a live round. It wasn't in the back of some guy's car lurking around a liquor store. It had been here for years. I'm 40 years old and never had a problem before. I'm a responsible businessman and entrepreneur in the community, lived here all my life. There's no intent to commit a crime. I don't need to commit a crime. I'm well off financially. I don't need to go down and rob a liquor store to feed my wife or anything else. What they really should have done is they should have given me an administrative slap on the hand, what they normally do, and seized the weapon. And, you know, I did a boo-boo. I didn't pay the tax. One of the real serious problems with the gun business and trying to deal with guns, or even owning a gun as a private citizen, is there are so many restrictions. and so many laws and so many gray areas that nobody really knows what's going on anymore. In calling ATF to ask Mike Badisco or any of these people what is legal and what is not, what can I and can I not do, they don't know. They're in the business to know what they're supposed to be doing, and when you call them, they can't give you an answer over the phone. They have to go check with somebody else. Now, how can I run a business if I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing? They expect me to know all the laws, all the regulations, everything, right to the deal, and they're changing laws and regulations, I mean, daily.